Good day, I am Dr. Penny Adversario, and today's session is about selecting the study population. At the end of the session, the learner shall be able to know the steps in designing selection criteria for research, to be aware of the general guidelines in framing inclusion and exclusion criteria, and to be able to formulate appropriate inclusion and exclusion criteria. The protocol must specify a sample of subjects that can be studied at an acceptable cost in time and money, yet one that is large enough to control random error and representative enough to allow generalizing the study findings to populations of interest. There are two major decisions that must be made in choosing the study subjects. The first of which is to specify the inclusion and exclusion criteria that define the target population, the kind of patients or respondents best suited to the research question. The second decision concerns how to recruit enough people from an inaccessible subset of this population to be the subjects of the study, which will be the topic in the next lecture slides. So inclusion criteria along with exclusion criteria make up the selection or eligibility criteria used to rule in or rule out the target population for a research study. They are thought to represent the two sides of a coin, or the balance of broad yet specific criteria. Too narrow of a criterion can lead to a sample size that produces insignificant amounts of data, while too broad of a criterion can lead to data that is clouded by external factors. The inclusion criteria define the main characteristics of the study population that pertain to the research question, as well as the geographical and temporal characteristics of the accessible population. Exclusion criteria, on the other hand, indicate subsets of individuals who would be suitable for the research question or would satisfy the inclusion criteria were it not for characteristics that might interfere with the success of follow-up efforts, the quality of the data, or the acceptability of randomized treatment. A good general rule is to keep things simple and preserve the number of potential subjects by having as few exclusion criteria as possible. Otherwise, it unnecessarily decreases the number of subjects who would otherwise be eligible for the study, and it increases the likelihood that a protocol amendment will be required to rectify the situation. The purposes of inclusion and exclusion criteria are the following: to define the study population and ensure its representativeness and homogeneity, to focus the research question, thereby improving its feasibility, lowering its cost, and minimizing ethical concerns, to improve reliability and optimize the external and internal validity of the findings, and reduce confounding and increase the likelihood of finding a true association between exposure and outcome. One begins by specifying the clinical and demographic characteristics of the target population that will serve the research question well, then uses geographic and temporal criteria to specify a study sample that is representative and practical. Demographic characteristics pertain to age, gender, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status. Clinical characteristics concern specific medical conditions, diagnosis, treatment history, or severity of illness. Geographic characteristics refer to location of participants or studies, specific settings, and temporal characteristics can mean publication characteristics like date of publication, language, specified period of observation. This is an example of inclusion and exclusion criteria for a cross-sectional multi-center study which evaluated self-reported adherence to inhaled therapies among patients with COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, in Latin America. The investigators described the inclusion criteria related to demographic characteristics such as age, more than or equal to 40 years of age, clinical characteristics like having a diagnosis of COPD, it being a stable disease, and being a current or former smoker, and the inclusion criteria was related to comorbidities that could bias the results, like sleep apnea, other chronic respiratory diseases, and acute or chronic conditions that could limit the ability of the patient to participate in the study. The authors excluded patients with comorbidities, as COPD patients with comorbidities would more likely show higher levels of non-adherence to inhaled therapies due to their more complex medication regimens. On the basis of this, one can make a judgment regarding the external validity of the results. This is an example from a clinical trial which is more likely to have more exclusions mandated by concern for the safety of the participant compared to observational studies. These are the general guidelines in the formulation of the criteria. The first is the criteria should be no more restrictive than is necessary to define the population of subjects needed to meet the study objectives. And the example is if you request for an MRI taken 4 weeks prior to the start of the study, that is already adequate. You don't have to specify that it needs to be taken within 2 weeks prior to the start of therapy. Otherwise, this would unnecessarily decrease the number of subjects who would otherwise be eligible for the study and consequently produce less data or insignificant amount of data. The second is to list the criteria in a logical order whenever possible. First, narrow the subject population to the disease of interest, and then add additional qualifiers such as laboratory values, and group similar criteria such as laboratory parameters together, such as seen in the left column of this table. So the disease status was the first criterion, which is stage 1 breast cancer, having an ECOG performance status that is equal to 2. ECOG stands for Eastern Cooperative Oncology Group. It's a research organization that conducts clinical trials and studies related to cancer. The performance status describes a cancer patient's level of functioning in terms of their ability to care for themselves, daily activity, and physical ability. And a performance status of 2 means the patient is ambulatory and capable of all self-care, but unable to carry out any work activities. This is followed by the age, and then the laboratory parameters, which were grouped together, which are your total bilirubin, less than or equal to the upper limit of the normal, and serum albumin of more than or equal to 75% of the lower limit of normal. Third, the same criteria should not be stated as both an inclusion and exclusion criterion. For example, if age more than 18 years old is written as an inclusion criterion, do not include age less than 18 years old as an exclusion criterion. Fourth, pay attention to detail. Age more than 18 years old is not the same as age more than or equal to 18 years old, because the former excludes 18 years old and while the latter includes 18 years old. Consider using institutional limits rather than actual values, especially for multi-institutional studies where there may be variations in various laboratory test parameters. So Instead of saying total bilirubin less than or equal to 1.3 milligrams per deciliter, use instead total bilirubin less than or equal to institutional upper limit of normal. Write the criteria as a positive statement rather than as a negative statement, meaning you state the criteria in terms of what you would like the subject to be rather than what you would not like the subject to be. So, for exclusion criteria, say pregnant or nursing rather than not pregnant or not nursing as an inclusion criterion. In the actual writing of the criteria, include an introductory statement that the potential subject must meet all inclusion criteria to be eligible, and meeting one or more of the exclusion criteria will make him not eligible to participate in the study. Also, individual criteria should be written such that a yes response for both inclusion and exclusion criteria deems a subject eligible or not accordingly. The following are common errors observed in the writing of the inclusion and exclusion criteria. First is using the same variable to define both inclusion and exclusion criteria. Example, in a study including only men, listing being a female as an exclusion criteria is a common error. Second, selecting variables as inclusion criteria that are not related to answering the research question. For example, including a study about the effectiveness of a new medication, um, including an inclusion criteria that is based on a patient's political affiliation. This has no bearing on the study's outcome and unnecessarily restricts the sample size. Third, not describing key variables in the inclusion criteria that are needed to make a statement about the external validity of the study results. For example, a study about chronic kidney disease patients, not specifying the stage of chronic kidney disease or the type of chronic kidney disease medications they are taking. Also, excluding individuals who cannot provide informed consent or who are members of vulnerable populations. This raises ethical concerns about fairness and equitable access to research opportunities. Fifth is the lack of clarity and specificity, like using unhealthy as an exclusion criterion, which is vague, subjective, and open to interpretation. Or plainly saying subjects having insomnia, which can be described more appropriately as insomnia diagnosed by a physician and having had symptoms for at least 8 weeks. Why is it necessary to be clear and specific? This is to control external or other factors, also to ease replication of the study for other researchers, and third, to increase reliability of results because it guides the composition of your patient or participant pool. These are strategies for determining effective criteria. So review your study objectives and baseline measures. You look through key studies from literature review. Criteria from other studies similar to yours may be relevant to your study and may provide insight you may have overlooked or not thought of. Refer to valid sources for medical conditions to include or exclude. Example, your mayoclinic.org or uptodate.org. Look at examples of inclusion or exclusion criteria from studies that have already been completed. And the investigator must also provide the rationale behind each criterion in case one or more gets questioned by the approval process from IRB. Examples of criterion topics are symptoms or diagnosis, either a medical condition diagnosed by a healthcare provider or certain symptoms of a diagnosis which a patient must have been dealing with for a specified amount of time. Technology requirements, say if you are having Participants use an application that is only available on Apple or and Android phones, you must state that the participants must be Apple or Android users. Or having participants do anything that requires internet access by phone, tablet, or computer, you want to include that as a criterion. Medication, if the participants in your study are taking medications, you might include that their health must be stable for at least for a certain number of weeks, or consider if you need to exclude participants that are taking any medications that may interfere with the study procedures. Education and language requirements. Consider the level of education needed to participate in the study, especially if it is a cognitive study, or if you are only able to collect data with surveys in English. Demographics like age, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, you have to specify. Symptom contamination or comorbidities, exclude conditions or similar symptoms that may interfere with the outcome of interest. And lastly, enrollment in other research studies like participation in other neurological, clinical, or behavioral studies to avoid the effect of the other research studies on the results of your study. Effective inclusion and exclusion criteria streamline the recruitment process and determine the subjects who will provide your studies data. And so the main goal of recruitment is to get a sample that adequately represents the target population. In essence, this is your sampling design, and to recruit enough subjects to meet the sample size requirements. And this is your sample size approximation, which will be dealt with in the next lecture slides. These are my references, and thank you for listening.